Alright guys, so I've been shredding some newspapers up. I had a whole bunch of newspaper, big stack of newspapers I had saved up. And so I've been shredding those. It's completely full. I'm going to throw it in this box. And then I'm going to spray a little bit of water on it and just kind of mix it all up. Spray a little bit more and keep doing that until it's not sopping wet, but it's moist. So basically I should be able to take a big ball of this in my hands and I should be able to squeeze it. It should kind of stay and take like a little bit of a form. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to keep that loose. I'm going to put that into the top of the worm bin there. Those worms, they really love that bedding. It's loose, it's not super compact. It has a lot of, it's basically wood pulp. There's a lot of fiber and nutrients that they can use to go through there and feed on that. And they can crawl through it easily and it retains that moisture, so they're always, you know, a little bit wet because they don't want to dry out. So what I'll do is I'll actually sprinkle coffee grinds and then other food scraps, non-meat or greasy food scraps. Do not use meat or grease. They can't break it down fast enough. It'll start stinking and be gross and nasty, and it draws flies. So I like to use things like eggshells. Coffee grounds is probably the biggest one because we go through one thing of coffee grounds a day. I can get them from work too, and I come up with a lot of them. You can even go to Starbucks. They'll give you coffee grinds in a big, well, 25-pound bag or whatever. Maybe it's 10 pounds, I don't know, but they'll give you coffee grinds, and instead of throwing them away, put them in your vermicomposting, put them in your worm bin, and you're not wasting them. So I'm gonna pop this open here. It is absolutely full. I probably should have got a bigger box. Hopefully this will compress down a little bit. So I'll just spread it out here in this box nice and wide. You can use a tote, it's a 5-gallon bucket, anything. So I got a little pump sprayer here that I use. And I use this just when I start seedlings in my basement, which you can't probably see, but there's some seedlings on shelves behind me. And that's what that fan is that's running, that you can probably hear. And so I have marked on here, water only, really big. And I do that because you don't want to use any kind of pump sprayer that's ever held any herbicide, pesticide, any kind of chemical really that you can think of. I mean, some won't harm them, but I bought a new one and I only put water in it. This is only for watering seedlings and for doing this. You don't want any chemicals in there because they're very, very sensitive to chemicals. So what I do is I just put it on a mist here and I'll just run it back and forth over this. Now you can buy worm bedding. They have it in a lot of sporting goods stores, things like that. But honestly, I found that this actually works better. It stays looser. Some of the worm bedding will actually get really compact, and worms don't really like to be in compact soil as much as they do something like this. I mean, the worm bedding works if you want to pay for it, but this, if you're going to do a lot of this, is way cheaper than buying worm bedding. So I'll just kind of mix it around, and I just want to get water all over it. So like I said, I don't want it to be soaked. I don't want it to be like water running off of it. I just want it to be kind of wet, kind of moist, damp. So if you get a ball and you squeeze it and water runs out, you've put too much, and that's not a big deal. You can just add more bedding, mix it up real good, and it'll be fine. Or let it dry for a little bit before you put it in there. But they definitely don't like it to be sopping wet. They will leave if it's sopping wet, but they'll also leave if it's too dry, or they'll die and shrivel up. So once you get it in there, it's kind of easy to keep it a constant moisture level. It's not like something that you have to monitor every single day. If you go, you know, you might check it for like every day for 5 minutes, but if you go somewhere for a week or whatever, it's not a big deal. I'm getting pretty close to where I want it. As I spin it around, I'm kind of feeling how much left is still dry. So I'm almost there. Alright, I think I'm pretty well where I want to be. So I kind of compress it down, make a ball, and it kind of stays together. And it's damp. It's not soaking wet, no water runs out of it. It's just kind of damp. So I think I'm ready to add this to the top tray here. All right, so we got some worms on the top, which is a good sign. So I'm just gonna take handfuls of this, put it in and smooth it around. And I want to fill it all the way to the top. And then that next tray will it'll compress down just a little bit. And so that won't be too much air in there. And you just kind of layer that, and so I'll put down a layer, and then I'll put down some coffee grinds or some food scraps, just a little bit, not much. Then I'll put down another layer, and then I'll just kind of keep doing that and layer it. And those worms that are in the bottom, once they run out of food, they're gonna crawl to the top. So right now, I have quite a few worms. So here's one right on top, and they're already kind of worming around in the new bedding. So these here, they're really active. So that's a good sign that I have nice, healthy worms. So they'll have plenty of room, and they will continue to expand. And as much area as you give them, they'll continue to lay eggs, and they'll continue to get bigger, and they'll continue to have more and more. Now I just slip the lid back over, and it won't take them long to break this down and make it into basically vermicastings is what they call it, when the worms have broken down, and it's basically just worm poop. That's called vermicastings, and it's excellent worm tea, which I'll show you how to make in subsequent videos. So I've been saving up our food scraps for the past week, and I did that so that we kind of get like a good variety of the type of things that we feed them, that we have that are waste. And I think most people will probably have these as waste in their kitchen as well. So as you can probably see on top, the coffee and coffee filters are kind of the first thing. A lot of people drink coffee, so that's a pretty common thing. And those are really, really good for worms. And you don't have to put the filters in there, but they will break those filters down. And so I'll just come along here. I try to add my food all to the very top layer, and so that keeps them continuously rising to the top in search of the food. Now on top here you can see some eggshells. So it's probably better to take the eggshells and put them in a grinder and grind them up a lot smaller. Usually I don't take the time to do that, but if you do, they'll be able to break that down a whole lot faster. So they really love these coffee grinds. They make really good vermicompost. So I have some towels here. You want to be careful what you've used those towels for. If you used them to like clean up meat or something like that, you don't want to use those. So here's some mango peels, some leftover pizza crust. Got a bunch of that here. Here's something they really love and that we eat a lot of in our house. We have avocados. This is a whole avocado, but you can use just the peelings too. As you can see here, we got just the peelings. These we use for guacamole and stuff like that, and you can actually use the actual avocado too. So here's some leftover bread, some moldy bread. They'll love that. And what I do is I just kind of try to distribute it all around the top here, just to kind of keep things nice and flat. So we have here some asparagus bottoms. Just any kind of like plant vegetation or anything like that they really love, and they can break down fairly quickly. So we got a banana peel here. What you don't want to do when you're doing this is to give them more than they can eat in a few days. Believe it or not, they can eat more than you would think, but if they don't eat it all, it will start to stink after a week or so. That's why I don't put any kind of meat, any kind of dairy. I don't give them anything like that, because it will spoil probably before they can get it eaten, and that stinks. So I have tops of peppers here. I have some whole sweet peppers. Sometimes those will actually grow. It's not a big deal. They can break that down too. I'll just usually pinch it out and then kill the plant, and then they'll break it down. Some more coffee grinds. Really good selection here for them to eat from. And a lot of that stuff is more of the same. Here I got an apple core, stuff like that. They can break down really fast. They really like. So I even have like some chips in here. You want to be careful with that. But so if it's like they use like dairy and stuff, dairy powder and all that kind of stuff, and like different, you don't want to give them anything that's like super spicy. But a lot of this stuff is more the same, so I'll just go ahead and add the rest of this in. Alright, so we got a nice layer of food waste here that they can feed on. What I like to do is I like to take a spray bottle. It's the same spray bottle I use for like my plant starts or watering indoor house plants, and I like to just coat it with a good layer of moisture. That way they can get around in this a little bit easier, they don't dry out, and it breaks down a lot faster for them. It's easier for them to digest. So I just kind of soak the top here, and I will come back and I'll do that every couple of days. If you miss a day, it's not that big of a deal, but I just like to keep a nice moist area here at the top for him to crawl around in. You don't want to soak it too much, and you don't want it to dry out. You just want kind of a happy medium. So that should be plenty right there. I'll take this lid here, I'll kind of mush everything down, and they like a nice dark area and stuff, so that'll give them plenty of food to feed on for the next couple days.